Eat Well, Travel Often is sponsored by The Book House, an independent bookstore with a cozy atmosphere where you can browse a plethora of fantastic selections, all while enjoying a delicious hot beverage. The folks at The Book House spend a lot of time curating the books found on their shelves so that patrons of all ages can walk in and find all kinds of exceptional reads. Owner Nadaj Nickel also welcomes in local artists and artisans who display their work in a special gallery space. While you're browsing the Bookhouse's many literary gems, make sure to also check out their ever-changing events calendar, featuring readings from authors, topic discussions, workshops, book club meetings, and more. Whether you're looking for a classic, a bestseller, a hidden treasure, or maybe just a community to join, visit the Bookhouse, located at 281 Essex Street in Millburn, New Jersey, or online at thebookhousemillburn.com. Tell them we said hello.
Welcome to Eat Well, Travel Often, a podcast about the intersection of food, travel, the environment, the mind, body, and spirit. I'm Melissa Goldberg. Food is the lens through which I look at life, where it comes from, how it's cooked, its origin. Food creates a community, and how we connect with each other through food is an expression of who we are. I hope to share with you my passion for food, from everything from book to plate. When traveling, there are so many tours to choose from. You can get on a bus, you can take a walking tour, or you can bike the city. When I was in Paris years ago, my husband booked a fat tire tour. It was a biking tour of Versailles. We loved it so much that we've taken their tours in London and Rome. My interview today is with David Mebane, the founder and CEO of Fat Tire Tours. He started the company with a loan backed by his parents when he was 19 years old in 1999. The company celebrated their 20th anniversary last year and now has tours in over 12 cities all over the world, with not only bike tours, but Segway and walking tours too. After my interview with David, stay tuned for the Book to Plate segment where I talk about my personal experience on the Fat Tire Tour in Rome. David, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. The first time I was introduced to your bike tours was back in 2008. My husband planned a surprise party or a trip for me in Paris, and the highlight of the tour was our Versailles trip. The experience defined Paris for me. I mean, literally, I loved it from every minute. Even we met at the tour place. We got on the train. We shopped in the farmer's market, clipped our food onto the back of our bikes, and then we were off. And it was an amazing experience. So Fat Tires, it's a very unique tour company. I find it's way better than a walking tour or a bus tour. How did you decide to start this? What's the origin of this company?
Well, you are kind, and so thank you for that glowing review. And don't tell anybody, but I think Versailles might be my favorite trip as well, because I agree with you. It's just great to get out there in the country, and the market and the gardens and the chateau itself are all fabulous. And seeing on bike is the only way to do it. You could walk for days, I think. That's great. I'm so glad you had a great experience. Yeah, great. Great question. I had the privilege and the luxury of being an intern in Paris, or at least in France, in Normandy, and then Paris every summer during college. And my fourth summer in a row, so after my senior year in college, I was an intern at one of the big 5 accounting firms in Paris. And I wore a suit and I sat in a cube, and I was in Paris, France, but I could have been anywhere in the world, which was not overly compelling. And I had so many friends coming through town, and my family and whatever else coming to visit. And they said, "Hey, David, we are here in Paris, and we don't know what to do, and you live here, so why don't you show us around?" And I was like, "Well, great. After work on the weekends, let's go get some bikes, because we can cover a lot of ground, and it's fun. And you're not exhausted, and your feet don't hurt, and and you're part of the city, right? You're out in the city, being part of the city." And I thought, I can either go back to Texas and work in a cube for a few years, and of course I was seeing the inner politics and the ladder climbing and so forth in this global firm, or I can be outside. And I had such a passion for Paris. I would get upset to this day. I still do actually. If someone that does not absolutely love Paris, I'm just like, that frustrates me. You need to love Paris like I do, and I'm going to endeavor to make that happen. And so I really do. I fell in love with that city, and I love to show it off, from the history to the architecture to the culture and the pace of life. And I love that place. And so it was really grown out of a passion I didn't really even know I had necessarily. The biking was really a means to an end. I'm certainly not an avid cyclist. I don't own any spandex or a road bike or anything like that, even to this day. I enjoy riding bikes, but I'm not a cyclist. And so the bikes just kind of allowed me to show off this passion and hopefully show people a good time while doing so, and enjoying and having fun, right? Having fun myself.
Back then, was it easy to rent bikes in Paris?
Yeah, and this is 1998, so this is 21 years ago. And remarkably, the answer to your question for me was yes, for whatever reason. And I'm sure this man is not living anymore. A little old man would show up, on the weekends and sometimes in the evenings, and he had maybe 20 bikes to rent, and he would set up shop down by the metro, just 2 or 3 blocks away from my flat. So this was way before the bike sharing programs existed, or anything like that. So if he wasn't there, it would have been challenging to find a bike. But for me, remarkably, it was quite easy.
So I read something somewhere that you were a tour guide at one point in Paris, not just your friends. How did you do that? How did you get that job?
So you're right. I was a tour guide in Normandy for 3 summers after my freshman, sophomore, and junior year in college. And so I was a tour guide. Most Americans, I think, they hear the word Normandy and they're like, oh, the beaches. And while that's certainly true, that Normandy is a region, not just the beaches, right? So I was not at the beaches. I was probably 2 hours away at an abbey, so a giant, church monastery built by Richard the Lionhearted back in 1189. And the family that owned the abbey then and still does to this day wanted to develop the English-speaking tourism market for the abbey. And so in a somewhat roundabout, convoluted way, my name made it to them, and they asked if I would like to, go do that. And I thought, well, that sounds like an outstanding opportunity. I'd love to go do that. So went after my freshman year in college. So I was 19, had never been to France, had no French language skills, had, extreme little knowledge about anything, frankly. I'm 19, so you don't know anything anyway. And so I just felt like, man, this place is great. Weather and history and topography and wine and cheese and proximity to other, European countries via train, all this kind of stuff. I thought this is really, really fun and exciting. The family was great. And so I did that for 3 summers in a row. And then I finally moved to Paris for the 4th summer and stayed in Paris for those 2.5 months or so.
Did you speak French then, or how was your French?
I did not speak any French whatsoever my first summer, and then I was like, hey, I kind of like this. I learned obviously a few words from living here, and went back and took 6 straight semesters of French at school. So 101, 102, 200s, up to 300s, and then came to France not only during the summers, but maybe Thanksgiving with my family, or over Christmas or spring break, something like that. I'd find my way over to France probably one other time during the year, just as an opportunity to practice it. Where my French got really good, though, was when I decided to start the business, because it was me or it was nobody. So it was total sink or swim, and I had to figure out what I was doing.
So tell me, how did you start your first store? How did you start this company?
So like the technical part of that, how did it?
How did you actually say, okay, I've been taking my friends out on bike tours and I want to start a business?
Sure. So I had 1 year left, so that was summer of '98. I was just as I described earlier, taking friends and family around Paris. Really liked it. I had I could go back and do this cube job at home, or I could try something different. And I've always had somewhat of an entrepreneurial bent to myself, motivation and desire, and my father's the same way, and so I thought, well, let me do this. I want to do this. I actually went to the what's called the Chambre de Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce in Paris, that summer, and and got shot down immediately by whatever lady. You literally had to pick a number, and when your number flashed, it told you to go to desk number 6, which I went to. And I told her I was American with an idea to start a bike tour, and she said that's an awful idea. And that's true. So I was like, all right, but I thankfully wasn't discouraged too much. So I called back and I got a meeting with the director of the Chamber of Commerce that's responsible for foreigner investment. And of course, I was a foreigner, or I still am a foreigner in France. So I'm not sure if she just felt completely sorry for me or if she actually liked my idea. I'm thinking maybe a little bit of both, but probably the former. And she literally put her arm around my shoulder and she's like, David, I'm going to help you. And so she got out her Rolodex and she said, you need to call this person for your business permit, this person for the paperwork, this person for a bank, this person for real estate. And I know this other guy, an American who likes bikes. Maybe he can help you out. And he and I are still friends to this day. And so, naturally, I wouldn't have had any connections. I didn't know a soul in Paris, not a single individual. And so, so she really set that for me. So I met with them that summer and kind of understood what needed to happen. I came back to the States and had 1 year left in school, a 5th year, right, a super senior. And I, developed a business plan with the help of the SBA here in Texas. And I went to Bank of America in College Station, Texas, and got a $25,000 loan based on the business plan from the SBA. And my parents had to co-sign because, of course, I had no assets as a college kid. And that was it. That's how I started. So that was fall of '98. Then spring of '99, I would spend about 3 weeks in Texas and a week in Paris as I was kind of gearing up and getting ready to launch on May 25th, 1999. I got 3 Ds and a C my last semester in college, so D for diploma. And that was it. Moved to France and stayed for 10 years.
Well, it's pretty amazing that it was kind of serendipitous that this woman knew someone who biked, because that sounds like it was your key.
Excuse me?
It sounded like that knowing that person might have been your key to.
Yeah, it was, he, like I said, we're still buddies today. He was really helpful in helping me find a place to have a home, which it turned out to be a garage in the -3 level of a parking lot near the not too far from the Eiffel Tower. And so I didn't have a home. I didn't have anywhere to put the bike, so I had to rent a truck, and it was a catastrophe. So that was a big deal for him. But just having a friend, right? Just having someone I could communicate with. He's half French, half American, so we had no communication issues, and just a nice guy, and just helpful to me as an individual. So he was a big part of our start.
Your first tour in Paris, how did you put it together? Because navigating the streets of Paris is not easy, especially not on a bike.
Yeah, 20 years ago it was very different than it is today. Today, I think Paris, I forget the number, I've read it. There are around 1,000 kilometers of bike lanes in Paris. And I think I may have told you I was there last week. And even and this was new to me, the Champs-Élysées has a bike lane, both up and down, dedicated bike lane from traffic. I hadn't seen that one yet. It's fabulous. So it's super easy today to ride a bike in Paris and not have car interaction. That was not the case 20 years ago. And so it was really important. I knew the sites I wanted to see, and anyone can figure that out pretty quickly. Eiffel Tower, Napoleon's tomb, the Louvre, that's where people want to go, right? Those places and a few more. And so it was really, what is the most effective, safe way to get from point A to point B. And as you can imagine, on a bike, you're going to need curb cuts, right? Because you don't want your group hopping over curbs. They need a ramp. You want wide sidewalks, so you're not trying to run over pedestrians, obviously. You're trying to find a place that you can stop a group of 15 or so bicycles and not take up the whole road or the whole sidewalks people are trying to get around you. So things like that, and that's just, this is way before Google Maps and stuff existed. So I just had a little pocket map out there, and I'd try, here's 10 ways to get from the tower to Napoleon's tomb. Well, let me try this way. All right, I saw that. Let me try this way. Let me try that way. And so It was just trial and error, really. And the tour is more or less the same today. I mean, we definitely modified a few routes as bike lanes have been developed and so forth, but for the most part, it's the same.
So I read that on the first day of your operation, you didn't get a single guess. So how did you develop? How did you get your first client? How'd you get your second?
Yeah, so that's true. We had exactly 0 customers on our first day, and we were consistent in that on our second day also. So had again a goose egg. Day 3, we had our first customers. It was 2 people, and they were both from my university, Texas A&M. I did not know them, but one of them ended up years later becoming our operations manager for 2 or 3 years, something like that. But yeah, so it was pretty slow at first, and the today customer acquisition is naturally done on the web. The web hardly existed back then, so customer acquisition was really done via brochure in hotels, right? And so
Right.
if we didn't have customers, I would get on my bike and I would go to as many hotels as I could and deliver as many brochures as possible, for the afternoon, something like that. And I would get up at 4:30, 5, whatever it was, and go to Gare de l'Est, which is the east train station, which was receiving the overnight trains from Berlin and Munich. And I would stand there as these overnight trains would come in, and everyone kind of falls out of the train because they haven't slept. It's 5:30 in the morning. I would stand there at the end of the platform with a handful of maps and our brochure, and I would try to be as helpful as I could and a smiling face in English, and say, hey, come on our bike tour. And I would leave Gare de l'Est, and I would hop on the metro and go to Austerlitz, which was the Madrid and Barcelona trains, and do the same thing. Then I would go home and go back to sleep for an hour or two, and then go to our meeting point and cross my fingers, and hopefully someone would show up. And so it was a big deal if we had double digits, meaning 10 people or more. That was a really big deal. I would get pretty fired up and call my parents.
Were you giving the tours then? Were you leading everything, or did you have a tour guide?
So no, I was one of 4 tour guides in year 1. I brought over 3 of my friends from school, and naturally we had too many tour guides because we didn't have very many customers. Our second year, it was me and only 2 other guys, but I was a tour guide all the way until I left in 1997. So I gave tours, like crazy, and we used to call it the Triple Crown. I would do the morning tour, and then I would do the afternoon tour, which were the same tour, and then I would turn around and do the night tour. And I'd be giving tours all day long. And so my wife would come on the night. She had to work. I would go out and lose money during the day. She would go out and make money during the day at her job, and so we would call it even. But for us to spend time together, she would actually come on the night bike tour when I was a guide, almost like a customer, just so we could have some time together. Because otherwise, I was at work, all the time trying to, get this business off the ground.
So at what point did you know you had something? Like you knew this was going to catch on?
Yeah, for sure. So, after year 1, I almost shut it down. In fact, I was going to shut it down, and my parents, and my father in particular, in his infinite wisdom, said, "You know what? You did a great job your first year. Obviously, you make mistakes. Now you have experience. You can go back and remedy those mistakes. Then you can double down on everything you did that worked well." And he was right. And so I came back for year 2. His advice was, "Hey, there's Austin and Texas and the United States will always be here, but once you come home, it's a lot harder to go back." And he was, of course, right about that. So that was great encouragement. I would say that year after year, probably year 3, as we had significant growth, year 2 over 1 and year 3 over 2, I felt real confident. I had always believed in it, that it was a good idea and it was fun. And I'm glad you agree with me on that, but I just didn't know if it was viable. But I think after year 3, I was certain that it was viable.
So, a lot of Americans, they come to these cities, they go on a bus, they take a few pictures, and that's how they tour the city. What is different about cycling around a city that makes people attracted to these tours? What are you trying to accomplish? I know why I love it, but.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. one of the, I mean, first of all, we'll start with language, right? So if you're on a bus, you're probably with people, which is not, which is fine, but that you got, I don't know, 5 to 10 languages on the bus, and you either have to listen to commentary in these 10 languages or you have headsets in, and that's not a very personal experience. So that's one thing, and the view on our side would be, obviously our tours are done in English. I say obviously, but our tours are done in English unless you're a group from Spain that wants to be Spanish. We can do that too as well. But the groups like that you've been on, everything's in English. And we really work to build kind of a camaraderie and a sense of group with the group, and working to memorize everyone's names and make it personable. And obviously you can ask questions. So that's one thing, is just having the personal experience of a guide who knows your name and is there. As you can imagine, sitting in traffic is not a very compelling experience. Looking at the tower, or the Louvre, whatever else, through glass windows is not a compelling experience. And being, of course, tied to roads, if you're on a bus or a bike, you have parks and gardens, and you can stop wherever you want, and all these different things. And as active tourism over the last 20 years has become more popular, biking is a great way to stay active. And like I said earlier, your feet don't hurt. You can cover a bunch of ground. You can see a lot, and you feel like you've got a great overview of the city without killing yourself in the process. And so I think that's been, I think the communication, the group camaraderie, you feel part of the city, right? You hear the city, you smell the city, you literally ride by the bakery, like, whoa, fresh baguettes, those smell good. You don't get that on a bus, right? That's not something you'll hear or smell in this case. So you're just part of the city. It's just more, the experience is different. And again, over the last 20 years, the bus tour I described just now, with either multilingual commentary or headphones in your ear, that was satisfactory 20 years ago. But all statistics and trends point to people today, millennials in particular, wanting an experience. They are spending less and less on hotels because they want to spend their money on unique experiences and getting something that's different. So sitting on a bus doesn't cut it for many travelers these days.
Yeah, travel, I mean, it broadens your mind. I mean, I love the experience. Have you ever looked into the science of travel? I've been reading up. There's a guy named Stephen Kotler and Jason Silva, and they talk about travel experience. You can achieve like flow. Have you ever thought about how your tours impact people's state of mind and how they feel?
So the science of no, my gut feeling is probably in line with science, and I agree with everything you just said. I mean, opening your box and expanding your horizon from cultures, languages, food, religions, architecture, history. I mean, all those things. I've got 2 kids, and we drag them all over the planet. And school is just more fun when they open a book and see the Taj Mahal in a book. That's one thing. But when they get to say, hey, I've been to the Taj Mahal, I've been to the Great Wall of China, I've been to the Opera House in Sydney, or whatever, all these things, I've been on a safari. It just the page in their school book becomes 3-dimensional. And we're what, on 3% of the world's population in this country, which obviously means there's 97% elsewhere. And it's important to understand who those people are and so forth. And it's great conversation. It's starters. It's I agree with you. Again, I don't know the science, but just having lived abroad for more than a decade, and I leave the country as much as I can just because it's so fun to see other things. It definitely broadens horizons, and I mean it makes me happy. Like it's a giant dopamine hit just for getting off the plane in some new country.
Oh, it makes me so happy. Yes. And it also makes you understand other cultures, other communities. You can relate to people better. So this past summer, my family and I went to Italy because, well, we travel all over. And my older son, who's 16, said, we travel all over the world, but most of the countries we go to, the food sucks. Can we go somewhere where the food's good? And I said, let's go to Italy. And then my younger one said, oh, we're going to go to Italy. We need to go to Pompeii because I studied it and I want to see it in person. And so we got good food. We went to Pompeii. A younger one was actually correcting the tour guides because they were getting things wrong. And then we went to Rome and we did one of your tours. And I love it and I wanted to experience it with them. And they loved it because what's better than a kid getting on a bike and stopping at all these places? So, but let's go. I want to go back to food. I see that you're now expanding your tours. Do you have specific food tours?
Yeah, we do. And this isn't a surprise for you. And you're right, Italy is a fabulous place to go for food. It's hard to find something bad down there. But the food movement, for lack of a better term, I don't know when that started. I would say 8 years ago. Like, when did the Food Channel on TV arrive? The Top Chef, all those kind of shows that have, at least in my opinion, brought it to the forefront of, I say pop culture, I'm not sure if that's the proper term, but just people, people like me, a normal person. I'm not a chef. I don't know how to make, sushi or anything like that or whatever it might be. Interested in that and interested.
I don't think anybody knows how to make sushi.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, pick a thing. If I like to go to Italy, and back in the day, I'd say, hey, a pizza will suffice for 3 nights in a row. But now I'm a little bit more, hey, pizza is great for one meal, but let's try something different. I'm looking for something more authentic, right? Going back to that experience, a unique and authentic experience. And so the answer to your question is yes, we have a number of food options. Which is good, or what is good is our cities. We have 12 cities. Virtually all of our cities are known for for food, right? So any of our Italian cities, Paris, Barcelona, New Orleans, San Francisco, Chicago. I mean, all these places have, Munich, right, has food, something unique about their culinary culture. And so we do, like all of our Italian cities do a walking food tour. I think it's Paris, Berlin, and New Orleans have a biking and food tour. And what that means, a food tour, is just, you go between, it's a think Hemingway and think movable feast. It's not that you're going to get a full meal somewhere. It's that you're going to have a little snippet, right? A little bite of an appetizer at a certain restaurant. And there's something significant about that. Maybe it's grandma's recipe from, the early 1900s. Maybe it's a restaurant that's been in business since before the United States existed. Maybe it's, the classic Italian or French, whatever, some sort of something. So then you get on your bike and you might have a little history in between, and you get to your second restaurant and you have maybe more of a main course. All those portion sizes small. So you kind of have a movable feast through here. Sorry, my phone's beeping. Kind of have this movable feast through the city. So you get to see the city, you get to have a culinary experience that has to do with the culture, which typically is different from Austin. Excuse me. And then, and it's fun, right? I mean, I tell people we are in the business of fun. And so it's fun. It's fun to do that. I am a big wine and cheese fan. So all of our Italian places also do a wine and cheese, walking tour. And, Italian cheese and Italian wines, those are something people write home about, right? They're good. As you just experienced this past summer.
Besides biking, you have expanded your tours to do other things. So some people may not want to be on a bike. Can you tell me what other type of tours you offer?
Yeah, so if you hit the website right now, you would naturally see bike, as you said. You're right, and that's not for everybody. We offer Segway tours. We were the first Segway tour on planet Earth back in Paris, back in 02 or 03. I can't remember what even year it was, but that was a big hit. So we have Segway tours. We do Skip the Line, which is a big deal. Tours of, the Versailles, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, things like that. So that's obviously on foot. You can't ride your bike down the Grand Gallery of the Louvre. They get upset about them. So Skip the Line, and then food, right? So that's kind of our 4 verticals. So Skip the Line, attractions, behind the scenes, food, bicycle, and Segway. So those are the 4 that we would offer.
I actually looked at the Segway tours for Rome, and we could not do it because neither kid, I guess the laws in Italy, you have to be 16 or 18 or I don't know what I saw. So, which was fine because I'd rather be on a bike, but I knew that the kids would like that. But
Yeah, I mean, segways are fun. I'm partial to bikes myself as an individual, but segways are fun just because they're typically unique. I mean, I don't own a Segway at my house, so it's fun to ride one with, if I get the chance. But you can cover more ground. You have more versatility on a bicycle. Yeah, people are more familiar with it, so it's the tour's quicker because people generally know how to ride a bike as opposed to a Segway, which is typically new for most riders.
so you're in 12 cities. How do you pick these cities, and are you adding more cities?
So the second question, are we adding more cities? Is yes. And then how do we pick those cities is probably not a whole lot of rocket science. You could probably come up with target cities. We kind of loosely rank them in tier 1, 2, and 3. What's important, I think, to when you're looking at new cities is naturally every convention and visitors bureau, right, the CVB of every city will have statistics. So how many people come a year? Where are they from? How long do they stay? How much money do they spend? Why are they in a hotel or this or that? So that's important. Of course, the first question is, well, how many people go to New York City? Well, that's a lot versus College Station, Texas. Well, that's not going to be that many. So that's the first question. But then that can be deceiving because if you look at like Orlando, well, a lot of people go to Orlando, right? But then the question is, why do people go to Orlando? And people go to Orlando, but not for something that Fat Tire Tours would do, right? They're going for Disney World or something like that. And so it's important to see, of course, the numbers, are they big enough to be sustainable? But you have to understand the why. You're also looking at weather, right? I mean, are we going to Siberia? Well, maybe, but it's cold, so that's going to negate a large part of our season. Or is it going to be super hot? New Orleans, for example, generally all of our cities are cyclical and have a busy summer and a lower winter. Well, New Orleans is the opposite because it's warmer. It's pretty darn hot in New Orleans, which happens to be my hometown. And so the summer we kind of taper off a bit, and we get more popular in the fall, winter, and spring there just because of the temperature. So the weather, numbers, why people are there, what is people's motivation for being in cities? Naturally, are there other competing tours already there? What's the saturation?
Is New York on your list? Is New York on your list?
It's not on our short list right now. No, it's not.
I would think it would be hard to do a tour, even though there's a lot of sites. It's so crazy that I would think it'd be hard.
Go there. Weather though is a challenge. Distance between Battery Park and the Empire State Building and Greenwich Village, and you could do that, the Hudson Bikeway or whatever it's called. I've done that a few times, which I really enjoy. But and then you also have to talk about what are competing things. What else is there to do in New York? Well, there's a lot. Right? And so our tourists who rightfully are very protective of their time, as they should be, because you're only in New York for, let's say you're on vacation for 4 days. Well, so how are they going to allocate those 4 days? What are they going to do? And if the choice is the Statue of Liberty or a bike tour, that's maybe Statue of Liberty, and I get that. That makes sense to me. I mean, I'd like to go see it too. And so we have to understand that.
It's so funny. I grew up in New Jersey, live in New Jersey, and still have never been to the Statue of Liberty. It's because it's always there,
You are not unique in that. That is. I hear that way, way too often.
Right. So you have young kids. Do they like to travel? Do you take them everywhere?
They do. Yeah, I'm not too far behind you. My son is 14. My daughter's almost 12. And we drag them almost everywhere. I mean, my wife and I will escape to Paris, just the two of us for some time. But generally we will do a family vacation. And so they have been, to Asia multiple times, all over the U.S., Europe, countless times, Africa multiple times, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, Tahiti, whatever. So we take them. We take them a lot of places, but and we enjoy that. It's great for them. We already discussed. It's great for them opening their mind it's a treat for my wife and I to get to experience that with them. It's really fun. We enjoy that very much.
I my older one is 16, so he's in 11th grade, and I'm like got one more year to travel with him. It's like sad because I just want to continue to travel with both of them. Once they go off to college, it's hard.
I have a feeling if you say, honey, if you come to Italy with us, I'll pay for it. I bet he'll show up.
Oh, he'll show up, but it just changes the whole vacation. This kid's here, and have they been on all your tours?
I mean, they have not. The kids, you mean? No. I mean, I haven't even been on all of our tours. I don't have, we're developing. I mean, right now is our low season from a customer standpoint, but it's super busy behind the scenes trying to prepare for the season, right? And then once we get to the summer, I mean, all we can do is hang on to try to keep our head above water. It's just so busy. So, two very different time periods. One, you're busy with, front-facing customers in the summer. In the winter, we're busy, internal facing. And so I forget what the number is, but we have over 200 tours collectively across our cities. I obviously haven't been on all of them, and there'll be new ones next year. We always evaluate. We are a very data-driven, metric-driven company, and so a lot of data driving our how would I say it? Our decision making regarding which tours we want to continue, what our price points could be or should be, margin, what was customer satisfaction on each one, what were the surveys and so forth. And so we're always trying to find the best mix of products to put forward for customers to choose from.
No, I think your mix is great. So you live in Austin. It's such an amazing city. I was there once years ago. I used to work for a PR agency, and one of my clients was there, and I loved it. Do you have any tips for anybody who wanting to come visit Austin? Favorite place not to miss?
Sure. Well, Austin is hot during the summer, not gonna lie. The fall and the winter, I mean, the weather is fabulous. I think it's 73 today, blue sky, crystal, pure sunshine. It's a gorgeous day. So you can come anytime. We have big music festivals. ACL Fest is in October. South by Southwest is in March. So those are fun. A lot of people come in for that. As far as favorite things to do. I told you I'm not a cyclist, but I do enjoy riding bikes, and I ride with a group of guys 3 times a week around what Austinites call the hike and bike trail. It's about a 10.5-mile loop, although you can make it shorter, crossing a variety of bridges. We do the entire loop, and it's downtown by the lake, 0 car interaction, crushed gravel path. Right, it's right downtown. I mean, it's awesome. It's a huge thing in Austin, and if you do come, you have to walk it, bike it, jog it, whatever. So hike and bike trail is certainly not to miss. My favorite restaurant here in town, I mentioned sushi earlier. This is better than sushi. It's called Uchi. There's actually 2. There's Uchi and Uchi Co. And talking about food, Tyson Cole is the chef. He won the James Beard Award, which I honestly don't know that much about, other than it's very prestigious in the cooking world or the chef world. Super great guy. And I just absolutely love every single thing they put on the table. So it's all Japanese fusion. It's fabulous. So I would go eat there. If someone's coming this way, I would recommend eating there, and you must make a reservation. Otherwise you have no chance.
Is it something you need to do like months in advance, or?
Oh, not months in advance, but I'd give yourself a few weeks. And they have a great happy hour. They open up at 5. And so my wife and I will go there on date night sometimes. We'll be there at 5 at the Stroke and enjoy, happy hour. And they have some of the plates that are more expensive on half price or on sale, whatever, and get to enjoy that. But it's a great spot. And then would you ask something hidden or?
Yeah, like a hidden gem or unique that people don't know about. Like I was just skiing in Colorado in Breckenridge, and we asked one of the instructors or guy, I don't know who told us this. We said, tell us of something that people don't know about. And so the guy told us about this troll in the woods it's a statue made out of recycled wood, like scrap wood. And we found it, and a lot of people in the area don't even know about it. It's like this hidden thing that like you just must see. So is there like something like that there?
I'm not aware of a troll or
Not a
or
troll,
something
but,
like
you know.
that. Not the troll, of course, but the proverbial troll.
Yeah.
Surround. That's a great question. Something hidden. I will tell you that something that I make sure everyone who comes here that I don't feel gets its due is, and it's called the Bob Bullock Museum. It's right by the Capitol, and every time I've been there, I feel like it's pretty sparsely visited, but it is an excellent museum about the history of Texas, and excellent interactive exhibits. They have a movie, kind of theater there, the history of Texas, and show different things about the state. And I think it's a great. Texas is so vast, right? It's not just Austin. It's not just sand and desert out west. It's it's a huge area, right? It's even France is only 80% the size of Texas, right? So there's a T-shirt down here. It's says Texas is bigger than France and has a picture of that, and so I think that's a necessary 2-hour trip for anyone, or not trip, but visit for anyone who's coming down here to Austin, just to educate themselves a little bit about kind of the history and our relationship with Mexico and the U.S. and how we were independent for a while and so forth. So I always enjoy that. It's not a troll in the woods.
No, but that's a great tip. That's if anything that's well worth seeing is a troll in the woods.
Yeah.
I read you have a book in the works. Can you tell us about it?
I do. That's true. So I know that you're not here in Austin right now, but if you saw me, you'd be surprised to say, hey, that guy over there had a heart attack at the age of 39. And so, which is true. So that was, it'll be 5 years in June 25th, 2015 to be exact. So this will be my 5-year anniversary. And I was actually in Paris in the shop, right, in the bike shop that and genetic for me, and I've never smoked or been overweight or anything like that. And so what I, as you can imagine, I was in ICU over there in Paris for a week. And when you sit there at the age of 39 with 2 young kids and married and, a business and all those different things, you wonder about the future. And as I tell people today, I was like, hey, I thought I was invincible, and I was, right up until I wasn't. And that's frankly the case for everybody, right? We all have a limitation. And
Right.
so what I started to do, because a heart attack is like a car accident, right? It's over. That's the end. It's not a slow, drawn out, process. It's just, that's the end. And I wanted my wife and my kids and maybe my parents or friends and to have some sort of, I say memory, that's not the word I'm looking for, but have something from me. So really what I started doing is I thought, okay, well, there's some things I'd still like to communicate to my children primarily, and certainly my wife, and I'd like them to hear that from me. And so I started coming up with what I call the topics, and things that I think are important topics. I'd like to kind of say, hey, here's what I think about whatever. And I started videoing myself doing that, and archiving those and so forth. And that kind of got around here in Austin. And there's actually an app coming out with the book, the same that does that, facilitates that. That's for a different day and a different story. But I was approached to kind of take those concepts. Hey, what did you think about, forgiveness or something else? And try to talk through that and use examples. And it's funny, typically they come from Fat Tire. So if you ever decide to spend some time and read this book, you might recognize several of the places in Paris and really funny situations or interesting or crazy, whatever they were, situations. A lot has happened in 20 years. I feel like I've seen a bunch of different things come across. And so really what my take is on certain topics illustrated through, experiences firsthand, that I saw, that I was involved with, or secondhand that I observed, some good, some bad, right? And we all have blind spots, and so it looks like that. The current working title is Sincerely, and so it's supposed to be it's more of, my children, my son in particular is like, Dad, no one's going to read this. I was like, yeah, I know. And so,
When is it supposed to come out?
that's a great question. We're through the first draft, and actually my ghost writer or author, co-author, I guess I'm the author technically, but he's the ghost writer. He is a multi-New York Times bestseller list and one number one. He wrote the book Let's Roll, which you might remember was a 9/11 book. And so Ken Abraham is his name, and he's in Nashville. He'll be here week after next, and he and I will escape down to a house that we have on the Frio River out in the Texas Hill Country for a week, and just collaborate during that week without kids or work, and really try to get through it. So I don't know when it comes out. I'd like to believe that we get a lot of progress done. I think we will that week, but sometime in 2020 would be my expectation. But I don't know the actual date.
Well, good luck with that. So is there any other thoughts you want to tell anybody about Fat Tire? Anything we left out? I mean, I want to thank you. My experiences, so 3 of them, it's amazing. And thank you for doing this company, because I just love it.
Well, you're welcome. It's been more of a blessing to me, of course, than anyone, because this has been my career. I've done this, May will be 21 years. May 25th will be 21 years since our first tour where no one showed up. And, what would I say? It's, our goal is we know that obviously travelers have, there's a lot of choices or a lot of things to do. We want to win on customer service and set ourselves apart with the guides that you've described, with the experiences. And family is really fun. Biking is something that the whole family, from child to mom and dad to grandma and grandpa, can enjoy together. And we all know, certainly I know, trying to drag kids through museums is not always their favorite thing to do. And so kids being active is a great way for, I think, kids to enjoy their time of travel and not fight with mom and dad. And I think we've got 8 cities in Europe and 4 here in the U.S. that are all very popular destinations, and I think we do a good job of giving people great orientation. Obviously, history. It's not this isn't a professor speaking down his nose at you. This is interesting information and the historical information, but also, hey, what's going on today? What's the irreverent stories? What's kind of the crazy stories? What are the legends? What could you do tonight? Hey, this is my favorite restaurant. You should go here. So really trying to be a wealth of information for our customers. And so if someone comes, we'd obviously love to have everybody, and give them a good time and let them walk away feeling like you do, which is great.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I'm going to let you get back to your work, and eat well and travel often.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And now we are at the Book to Play segment of Eat Well, Travel Often podcast. Here, I report back to you my personal experience. It could be a cookbook I cook from, a restaurant I ate at, even a place I recently visited. If you have any suggestions, please reach out to me. As you can tell, I am a big fan of Fat Tire bike tours. My first experience was in Paris, actually Versailles, but then a few years later, we went to London and took the Royal London Tour that included the House of Parliament, Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, Big Ben, the Royal Parks, Kensington Palace, and Trafalgar Square. The London Tour did not include entrance into these sites, but the Versailles Tour did have a skip-the-line tour of the chateau. Both tours were fantastic. So when we took a family vacation to Italy, we decided that Fat Tire would be a great way to see Rome with our kids. I actually originally wanted to take them on a Segway tour because I thought my boys would love that. But Italian laws require that all riders on Segways be 16 years of age. Let me tell you though, the Fat Tire bike tour did not disappoint. The tour included such Roman highlights as the Pantheon, Trevi Fountain, Colosseum, Circus Maximus, and Campo de Fiore. Our tour guide was amazing. Our first stop was one of the many drinking fountains, or Nassone, in Rome to fill up our water bottles. August in Rome is very hot. There are approximately 2,500 of these fountains in Rome, supplying citizens and tourists with free drinking water. The water is the same water that is supplied to the homes in Rome, so it's safe to drink. The city began installing them in the 1870s. One of my favorite stops was the Church of St. Ignatius. Inside the church is a faint dome painted by Andrea Pazza, an amazing feat that artists created an optical illusion of a real dome. We got to throw coins in the Trevi Fountain and ride the cobblestone back alleys of Rome. The bikes are super comfortable and easy to ride, and the tour guide makes sure it's safe for crossing the streets. I highly recommend Fat Tire Tours. After taking 3 different tours in 3 different cities, I can assure you that you cannot go wrong with the other cities they are located in. I will put links and our photos in the show notes. I would like to thank David Mebane of Fat Tire Tours for taking the time out of his busy day to talk to me. If you want to find out more about Fat Tire Tours, you can go to eatwelltraveloften.net where you can find the show notes. You can reach me via email at melissa@eatwelltraveloften.net or on Instagram and Facebook at eatwelltraveloften podcast. Please reach out to me with any recommendations or comments you may have. I would love to hear from you. Thank you. Eat well and travel often.